They say winning ain't everything. Well, we don't have them type conversations over here, man. Had that conversation with the losers. We trying to win at everything we do. Even in the loss, we don't see defeat. We see a lesson learned. Straight up. Look, I came into this world in 1978. The doc looked me in my face and knew I was something great. 45, 42 Prescott, that's where I'm from. Grew up in the slums around dope dealers and bums. As humble as I was, I adapted to my habitat. In my own lane though, far from where they crashing at. Dumb bar graduate, the game I done mastered it. Served in the Navy, look, y'all don't know the half of it. Pops passed in '01, moms passed last year. I know they up in heaven smiling down, crying mad tears, cause they son making it. No telling where I'm taking it. My city been cursed, but I feel that I'm breaking it. Coached at Wayne High in 15 in one state. Seen the fork in the road and went straight. I know what I'm worth, I'm OG King Kirk. Brooklyn Nets gaming crew legend, let's work.
Hey, this is OG King Kurt, your host of the OG2CENTS podcast. I want to thank each and every one of you who tune in every Sunday. We truly appreciate it. If you're watching the YouTube portion of this podcast, please remember to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Also, give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. Helps us out a lot. Links are in the descriptions for all available streaming platforms. Let's continue to stand against any forms of social injustice and racism. And this episode is brought to you by Zenni Blocks. Make sure to armor your eyes with Zenni Blocks Virtual Clear Blue Blockers. It's important to protect your eyes from the harmful blue light from your digital screens, so you'll have less eye strain, and that makes for better sleep and performance. Check them out at zenni.com/gaming or follow them at Zenni Gaming on Twitter and Instagram. This is episode 44, Exposure with Danny Martin. This brother is, a phenomenal person. Definitely has been influential in my career thus far. Just truly a great person. Danny is a visionary and thought leader in the esports industry. As the co-founder of Esposure Incorporated, he has aided in the professional development of students, interns, and postgraduates. These students have received esports scholarships and employment from acclaimed universities and esports organizations like Central Methodist University, Complexity Gaming, Pacers Gaming, and Mavs Gaming. Furthermore, he has provided opportunities for many esports players to play with professional franchises. Danny's passion for helping others has allowed him to speak at several high schools and universities on panels in front of thousands of individuals. In his pursuit of connecting everyone to esports, he's maintained relationships with the NBA, the NFL, and the music industry. Danny is always ready to talk about esports and is on a mission of helping 20,000 esports enthusiasts by 2025. That's a great description of Danny, but it doesn't cover everything. I'm proud to have him on the show. So with further ado, Danny Martin, how you doing today?
I'm learning every day, and the failures that I do experience, they only help in the trajectory of growth for the whole industry as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, Danny, like I mentioned before we started recording, you have been very influential in a lot of the things that I do. Definitely when I started this podcast, unlike some people, I like to get critiqued and I always trying to get better. I sent Danny over one of the earlier episodes and he critiqued it and told me some things that he felt that I could do different to be better. And I didn't get offended. I listened to him and definitely been picking up some things and learning a lot. Just jumping right into this interview, Danny. I just want you to tell people your story and how you got to where you are today.
I think for me, it's understanding that I grew up in the southern sector of Dallas where it's a lot of hustles going on here. Definitely a minority centered area, and being around a family that would typically not be able to get the best of jobs. I was forced to work during high school, and work allowed me to hear the word entrepreneur all the time. So just growing up in high school, you hear that word. So when you have the opportunity to go to college, from a sports perspective, you know that when someone says, "What's your major?" It's entrepreneurship. That's all I knew, right? So
Right.
ultimately, you know, you think about it, you know the word, and you know the word means a lot, but ultimately you got to think about it like, what am I going to create? So while you're in college, you're consistently figuring out, what am I going to sell? What am I going to build? Like, how I can't just say I'm an entrepreneur without a product. So ultimately, every day was spent on that, and I knew the light bulb, and that light bulb was when an individual easily recognized, like, hey, my Xbox is not working. Who's gonna fix it? And I knew that that was the opportunity. If I learn how to fix it, that's some extra capital that I can have in my pocket. And if that person is experiencing that, there's other individuals on campus that are experiencing it as well. So it started just understanding the value of how to make capital while you're on college campus, while you're running track, while you're trying to survive, pay for courses, and things like that. And it led to me understanding the industry, because when someone gives me their console, I'm able to identify who that person is, how long they play, what game they play, you know, and ultimately, if I want to host a tournament on campus, I know exactly who to go to. That's my database. And upwards of everybody who's trying to host tournaments, they have to have a database that they're pulling from in order to have the best response when it comes down to offering that tournament and gaining from that tournament. You know, if you got a prize purse for $1,000 and you only get one person that comes there, you're just now in the red. And I've experienced that in college before. So ultimately, it was like, how do you make capital by hosting tournaments? And that let me know that tournament organizing is a huge thing, and it's the precipice of everything in regards to esports, because that tournament organizer engages with the marketing team, engages with the production team, engages with the competitors. And when you understand that avenue, you're like, okay, well, I see a value here. Now I want to be able to create a product that makes it easier for other tournament organizers to compete and to also be able to secure capital, because I'm big on making capital for individuals to secure their passions. Everybody in this industry has spent the time like, I'm not making any capital, and they're trying to figure out how they can make something out of it outside of just doing it for passion. Because their parents may be on their back, their family may be on their back, and you know, I felt that before. So trying to create a technological product was, you know, the main focus on me. So I spent a couple years in San Francisco just trying to learn from, you know, take in from everybody on how to build a tech company, how to develop a product, a software platform. And I learned a lot from that, because it was my instance where it's like, building the software platform is not easy. Someone that can build a platform, but they also can secure resources, they're naturally going to grow way faster because they have the necessary resources. If you don't have the resources, you're going to be spinning your wheels. And that was my first opportunity where I was just like, I can create a product, but can I have the, you know, resources to back that product out? And it instantly let me know, like, I have to figure out how to organically build an audience. And ultimately that allowed us to recognize, like, all right, when you build this organic audience, you can then say, here's these actual professional gamers that are coming out of this organic community, and the rest is history from there. And we'll definitely go in from there. But the start is just understanding that entrepreneurship led to building a product, and upwards of utilizing that product to build a community. And this is what esports is about right now.
Right. I mean, you know, stemming from, of course, the Geekletes, and that's obviously the first place that I got an opportunity to know who Danny was and what you were doing. And I thought it was like, you know, at that time it was next level. And now if you think back from then until now, it's like nothing compared to what it is. And I mean, and I guess I resonate with it so much is because, you know, it's about growth.
Yeah.
And like you said, understanding everything that you thought you were trying to do to what led you to what you really were doing. Yeah. But just, you know, starting from Geekletes and now making the transition into Esposure, talk about that.
Man, that was one of the hardest things I've ever had to experience in my life. You know, with Geekletes, you know, you think of Geekletes as geek and athlete. And so when you think of Geekletes, you think of professional gamers. And the whole goal was to help a professional gamer or aspiring gamer turn pro. And we easily recognize that, you know, that's cool, but there's a whole support team that has to help that individual. And as you know, Ivan, like, you got a whole team that you engage with all of your athletes on a consistent basis. And I seen that exact same thing. So then I start recognizing like there are also career opportunities even outside of aspiring gamers turning pro. And I looked at it as like I see a whole ecosystem that's here. And when COVID, right before COVID, having an esports facility, like, I opened up a 15,000 square foot esports facility, but I didn't want it to be like every other arena that's around. I really wanted to be an incubation hub so individuals can start. I want someone to come off the street and be able to say, I want to get into esports. How can I do it? And it's like when you walk in here, you're like, all right, you either get on stage and play, or you get in that production room, you get in that tournament organizer's room, or you get in the music studio, wherever. There's so many little small subsets in here. So individuals can leave with, man, I've done something. I built something that can add to my portfolio. And so right before COVID, it was almost like this is what we were focusing in on, is creating that system. COVID hit and it was like, wow, no traditional sports going on. I couldn't actually have events going on in this space. And we instantly recognized, like, we had schools that we were engaging with to help them build out their programs. And they, in order for them to say, let's do it, they had to see it for themselves. So they instantly wanted to be able to come in our facility and see the experiential learning that these individuals were partaking in. Students will learn production in esports, marketing in esports, technology esports, competition in esports, and management in esports. And that was the school's way of saying, hey, this is what we're going to do on our campus or our public school environment. But as COVID hit, all the schools were like, well, we can't do it anymore. So we instantly was just like, all right, if this is not any time right now, this is the time to regroup. We understand that we have to go and build a technology platform. And I credit to building a technology platform before, where I instantly knew, okay, this is what we need to build in order to adhere to the way of schools and how they're learning right now. So we were just like, if we wanted them to come into our programs of learning esports, then we got to put all of that content in a technological form and offer it to them. And most schools right now, they learn through learning management systems. And I instantly recognized, like, there's no esports learning management system. So if we can create an esports learning management system and then put all of our content on there, then we can actually go back to the schools and allow their students to engage with the content that we create, because we're a true esports company. We know what we're talking about. So in that instance, we had to do a full rebrand to really adhere to the actual schools. When they see a Geekletes, it's Geek and Athlete. But when they see Exposure, we looked at it as like, what's a term that's used in esports a lot? It's expose and exposure. So we were just like, all right, esports, expose is a negative term, exposure is a popular term. How can we add that together and create our own word? So therefore we can actually, make sure that that word sticks anytime that we say exposure and exposure. And we were just like, this is a perfect way. So we had to rebrand it. And when you look at the logo, it's a cap. It's a graduation cap. So it lets the students and the teachers and the instructors know, like, hey, this is geared towards education. And it makes it a little bit more palatable for that of the institutions to bring us on board to teach esports into schools. And so that was one of the biggest things. And rebranding is not the easiest thing, because you got to change everything. You got to change social media. You got to change content. We had to redo our content that we built. So I tell everybody, and the psyche of our team, it got to a point where our team was like, are we even esports company anymore? And I had to go and tell them about the story of transitioning, understanding the bigger, the larger scale on what's transpiring here. When individuals in esports understand that there's an education element and you can learn, after you learn, you then what? You go and build, you put together a portfolio. And after you build your portfolio, what do? You say, here's my portfolio. I now need to secure a job from that portfolio. And when I think of Esposure, we're a full eat ecosystem. When I say education to entertainment, I truly mean it. And that's one of the biggest reasons why we had to rebrand, and ultimately just to survive. You're seeing so much going on in this industry right now because of COVID. And ultimately, when I think about surviving, you got to be nimble, you got to be quick, you got to be engaging, and you ultimately got to get your whole team involved. And if they don't believe in the vision, then it's done, it's gone. So our goal right now, every single day, is to be able to showcase what we're doing in this industry and the whole ecosystem and how it's coming together to impact students and individuals that are teachers and ultimately the community. So that was the biggest reason why we chose to do a rebrand.
No, I get it. I mean, I love the education plus esports equals opportunity. I don't think it could be better put. I think for most of us, even myself, who happen to stumble into esports, is that, you know, when you take just the away from just the gaming aspect and you start covering everything, it makes it a bigger commodity, and it makes it special going into the future, where now you're starting with the youth and being able to teach them and watch them grow through it and be able to evolve with everything that's going on, especially with the way tech is starting to dominate the world. So I just think it was dope. I didn't understand it at first. I'll be honest. Like, I was trying, you know, and you're a busy guy,
Yeah.
and I hadn't got a chance to fully talk to you about it. But when I started seeing the transformation, I thought it was perfect. And even just thinking back from the geeklets to, you know, from the athletes to the actual game. I mean, just every concept, I don't think you've missed. I think you've nailed it on both sides of the track. And really, if people have to really get into the mindset of evolution and growth, because that's the only way you survive, especially in esports.
It is, you know, and you hit it right on point. And you know, after you evolve, now you're able to inspire. So not only the individuals that are out there, but like we spoke on right before, Michael Aguilar, man, there are colleges and institutions all around the world right now that are trying to figure out how to build programs. And you have individuals like Michael Aguilar that have taken intelligence and insight and past experiences to build out and develop programs when it comes down to it. So therefore, students can go through those programs and be successful in this industry. And so for us, when I think about building programs, you don't have a lot of colleges and high schools, and they're learning how to build their programs as well. So ultimately, this is the perfect opportunity to say, all right, we have the assets, let's go build it, and we can inspire those organizations, those schools, and tell them and teach them how to be able to do it. And when you find individuals like Michael, it's almost like that's a gem to any school, to any organization. And there's a lot of Michaels out there. They just have to be given the opportunity to showcase their skills, and therefore they can represent and build a community just like any other traditional community that's built, especially in esports when it comes down to all the different genres in which all the different communities lie in those genres. They're all different, but there's somebody that's in there that's championing it. And it brings it back to that tournament organizer. That tournament organizer is essentially that community builder. It's essentially that foundation that helps communities thrive for long periods of time. And so I ultimately say, there's a lot of learning lessons inside of this industry. And ultimately, I want the pipeline to be created in regards to high schools and colleges, because ultimately, beforehand, without them being created, you see individuals who are aspiring professionals. If they turn pro, they're like the Jordans or the Kobes of the world, right? And that's a small percentage that happens. I've been able to see a lot of individuals come in and compete, but they just didn't make it to that professional realm. And ultimately, if you don't make it to that professional realm, where do you have to go after that point? If you can't go to a college or a community college or, a G League or any of those elements, then you're like, well, I've wasted all my time. And now you're like, I don't even want to be a part of this. I'm going to go somewhere else. And I hate seeing that. So from that perspective, it was us trying to figure out how to start it to inspire programs around the globe to be able to build out the same component, and they may build them out even better, especially when you see OU, and even right now with SMU building out a management certificate esports program. These schools are understanding that this is the way to go, and this is how you retain individuals into your school, because people are gaming and they're loving gaming, especially during this time of COVID.
Yeah, the one thing that I want to speak on in particular about the episode with Michael Aguilar was that, he didn't run to the university and ask for tons of dollars to create the program. He went out and raised money and got sponsorships, and I thought that was great. And then the other thing that he said that really got with me, because, the 2K League is young, only going into his 4th year. He said, of course, everybody focuses on winning. and competing. And he said that's fine, but it's not good for the long haul. Basically, you want to be able to build a community and build support behind it to keep it going. And winning is great, but it doesn't always secure that. You have to bring something along that people believe in and they want to get behind and stay behind it. And it takes more than just winning to do that. And I thought, it's somebody like myself who's constantly trying to create as many avenues that may even still be related to the 2K League. You still have to show other sides of yourself and what you can do to be a bigger entity to who you're involved with. And I think even players, all involved have to do that. I mean, because there's some people who tune into esports and they're not in love with video games. They like the personalities, or they like the players, or they just like certain organizations and what they stand for. So it's multiple ways that you can attract fans and potential and sponsors and different things of that nature. So I think that episode really stuck with me.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to be able to see. There's going to be many. I like, one of the biggest things is I watch, your podcast. There's a lot of podcasts that are populating that's out there that are providing really good core content. And I think right now in this time span, it's, these podcasts are virtual books. There are elements to be able to bring on individuals who have specific skill sets that they're willing to share with the world. It's not hard to have a podcast, Ivan. I know, like, by seeing you inspire me to be like, man, if I'm gonna jump, I'm gonna jump. And what I've recognized is, you build really good partnerships from utilizing a podcast, and that was something I didn't perceive until you hop into it. And Upwards, the number one goal is to provide insight to the public, and that's something that is very key in this industry, because you got so many people that are looking at this industry now. It's like, all right, well, pandemic, I may have, been furloughed. I may, have a son or daughter I may not want them in traditional sports. I may want them in esports. And there's so many elements that people are looking in at. Investors, they're looking at it as like, okay, well, if anything, nothing else survived, I know esports is still, trucking along. Let me go ahead and build a business. And what we're looked at right now is that as all of this stuff starts to develop in this space, what's going to happen? You got companies that's building. Right now, we all know that there are still, in honest, true opinion, there's still not a lot of jobs in the esports industry right now. But what you do know from a statistical perspective is that they're doubling year over year. So right now, it may be 6,000 jobs. It's going to be 12,000 jobs and 24,000 jobs, and it's doubling. And even now with COVID, I'm sure it's probably tripled. So ultimately, when you have all of these entities that are building out companies, you're going to have a lot of jobs. And ultimately, these same companies are going to be like, well, if there's not people to fulfill these jobs, it's going to go right back down to where it's almost like this big bubble of excitement and jobs being available, but there's nobody there to fulfill them. So it's upwards of us to utilize these podcasts to gain people interest inside of this industry. So therefore, they can say, I can go build a portfolio and I can go attract the actual largest organization, whether it's Riot or Games, or even a small organization like ourselves, to be able to say, I now can be employed by entity, and it's upwards of us to be able to say, here's an opportunity, go and fulfill it, because it's out there.
Now, a few things, I mean, because just countering that just a little is like staying on brand for me, like building a podcast. Part of my brand has always been to motivate, to inspire, and just overall positivity. And I think with my podcast, I bring people on, and I feel that can do all three of those things. And I think that's really the big thing for me when I see people starting to do anything, is it has to organically be something that you yourself stand behind, and you won't fold no matter what. And I just want you to talk about, because your platform has I think a lot of people has benefited from it. I mean, and you stand behind it, and it's been the same even through the rebrand. It's still the same purposes are being met. Yes. We've had multiple 2K League players that participated in your platform, and now they've went on to become pros and champions and different things of that nature. So I want you to talk about that for a second.
That's pretty cool because, you know, a lot of people don't even, you know, our core community, you know, let's break down, you know, when I first started engaging, I mean, I took a 2,000 square foot space in downtown Dallas and I lived in that. That was my home. And at that point, I was just like, you know, there's no other arenas that are available for individuals to come showcase their skills. And me being from the southern sector of Dallas, sports have just been big for me. Basketball, you know, football, all of those elements have just been big. So that naturally goes to a sports game. But when, you know, it came down to build a technology platform and you go to DCs and saying, hey, I got this technology platform, they're looking at it as like, you know, why is not League of Legends part of this? Why is not Dota the biggest games? And it's almost like, well, I don't know those communities. You know, I didn't grow up playing those games. I didn't know. I can go try to build a platform for them, but it wouldn't be authentic. And when you look at the sports community, it's almost like, well, you know, I got to sacrifice because I'm not going to get the resources that I need to be able to build a technology platform. It takes a lot. And at this point, it's almost like, well, I got to build community first. And just seeing NBA 2K in an instance where it has the potential to do 5v5 and 2K16, it was almost like, well, this is the biggest element. Other sports games are not doing team. I can't talk to a parent about camaraderie and leadership and, you know, critical thinking if there's no, you know, if the game itself is only have 1v1, 1 versus 1. But you can speak on it when it has 5v5. So it was just a natural, you know, transition to start to focus on NBA 2K. And then when you go out into the community, you're like, where all the NBA 2K players play? They're playing online, you know? So it's just like, now you got to figure out how to pull everybody from online to come into a space, because that's dope when you get 5 individuals together and they can be able to talk amongst each other. You know, you see it in the NBA 2K League, you know, the camaraderie, the spirits are high, sometimes the spirits are low, you know, that all of that mixture comes together and it creates good entertainment. People want to see that element. And so when recognizing it, we understood that individuals who are playing in these type of environments, they need brain, they need exposure, right? So they need these type of opportunities, and it was instant for us to be like, let's let them come in here. And when you find some of the people that's in the community that are attractive online, then and you know that they live in Dallas, and it's like, come on into the space. And this before NBA 2K League was even announced, and when they're playing, it's fun. And I'm looking at it like, man, we finna create an NBA 2K League. You know, there's nothing out here, so we gonna do it. And then, you know, you see, you know, you consistently built that community, and then a 2K League announces, and then you're seeing the players that were playing, that were competing, they're now getting drafted in the NBA 2K League. And I always looked at it as like, why is that the case? And one of the biggest things that I recognize is, one, you know, from a GM, a coach, even from your perspective, Ivan, is you're seeing these players, they're competing online. You only get one facet though. You're seeing their skill sets online. And naturally, when you get to see individuals in a location, in a physical environment, you get to see their how they engage with their teammates. You know, if they can be able to live amongst each other. You know, the toxicity is heightened. You know, when you get to really be like, I don't really want this person on part of my team. So you get to make more conscious decisions when it comes down to building out a qualified team to compete for millions of dollars. And I recognize that was their opportunity. Ultimately, if you compete in a live setting, it makes it easier when you go into a bigger live setting with hundreds and thousands of individuals watching you as well. You have that type of experience already. So ultimately, I start recognizing that's a good benefit to incorporate, and ultimately trying to figure out how to engage with the actual practical or analytical elements as well. How to help someone get better incrementally in a specific game or a specific niche within that particular game. It just ultimately recognized like, man, this is a proven system, and these now gamers are engaging with professional entities and being professional gamers and making capital, making money to survive and help their families. And that's the number one approach. So seeing that ultimately let us know like, man, you know, we have something, and everybody out there can replicate that model, because if the replication comes, now you've created this G League element. And granted, this is just out of Dallas, but ultimately people can do this exact same thing in different territories. And ultimately you now have a really G League, because it ultimately provides individuals opportunities who did not make it to the NBA 2K League. As we know, stats wise, it's about a little over 100 individuals that are able to make the NBA 2K League. You know how many thousands of people that are playing NBA 2K that want to make that $1.4 million prize purse? A lot. And so if they don't have anywhere to go, it's hard to be able to see. And ultimately, we have to create that foundation for individuals to be able to say, I didn't make it, but I have somewhere to continuously try to make it. And one of the coolest things that Ivan and, that you've been able to build is, the MPBA, and there's other leagues. And it gave the opportunity for the individuals to be a part of leagues on a virtual perspective. And I've always been admired by that, because it was like you gave them that opportunity, and now they're able to utilize that opportunity to showcase their skills. And I always was like, how do we do this on this component? Because that's all I had the physical element. I was like, how can I add value to what they're doing and make it to be even more valuable for the NBA 2K League? And upwards, what we're seeing right now is that we have a critical opportunity to create a G League. It just comes back down to resources, right? So every single day, we're like, how do we get the resources to be able to really build this out? We have a model, and we've seen it work in regards to a G League even here. But now, how do we actually expand this and expand it in a way that is beneficial to the actual individuals who are competing on a daily basis that want that opportunity?
No, I think it's great, Danny. I mean, because for one, I think a lot of people who are aspiring to make the league, it's always elements that's missed. Everybody has an opportunity to be good at the game.
Yeah.
But us as evaluators, general managers, and coaches, we don't really get a chance to really see who you are.
Yeah.
And I think that's always like in comparison to traditional sports. You have this big time high school prospect. People have been following him since middle school, or her since middle school. And people that you get to witness their career all the way from middle school, high school, college. And then now on draft night, I mean, people know significant enough information about him or her to take a chance on.
Yeah.
And I think that element alone gets missed, where I think it leads to a lot of really uneducated, or a lot of bias to those who do get picked, because you figure, because it's only they're good at the game.
Yeah.
Or some people get picked for multiple reasons, but a lot of times it's really a crapshoot, because you don't know how this player is going to perform at the pro level, let alone how they're going to conduct themselves when they do make the pro league. So I think anything that can add that component and element to us being able to witness who the person is beyond the player, I think is great.
I've seen the cool thing is that, these players, from a personality perspective, I'm looking at a stat right now. I'm tracking the stat is, I've been able to see, and I can speak, and I've been able to see J Money, Brent Asgard, Reezy, Day Fry, Mike, and Geo. I've been able to see these individuals develop, and that's them coming into the small space and competing every single day, and every other day or every week, and see their grind. But most importantly, I've seen their personalities. And when I look back and I see the time that they're in the league, and every year they're still in the league, everybody that has made it to the league that I've experienced here in Dallas, they are still in the league, right? And I'm like, I sit back and I'm like, man, it shows, if there's a testimony that shows the individuals that are there, and that means somebody is still taking a chance on them. And I look back on that, and that's a data point that I look for everybody who come through this pipeline. We have some really good individuals, that even like specifically Nike Hoodie, he's been qualified now to be in the draft. He was our first round draft pick inside of our GEA league here. And so instantly seeing it, I was like, man, our goal now is to get behind him to help him get exposure to that of going to getting drafted, right? Giving him all the power. And when I look at his personality, I'm like, if he makes it to the league, his personality is a leader. His personality is aggressive. His personality is also humble just as much. And when you think about his skill set, he's always willing to learn. So when I think about that, I'm like, this is just another example of an individual being able to say, hey, I really want to be a part of the NBA 2K League. And I am, and the team that's around us is going to make sure that this person has all the exposure possible. So therefore, coaches like yourself and GMs like yourself can know, like, there's people out here that are wanting, they're hungry for it. And upwards for us is to make sure that everybody else that was part of our GEA league is also getting those opportunities just as much.
Yeah, it's great, Danny. I want you to, you know, you've done a lot of things over the years, a lot of various accolades and different things of that nature. Did you, I know you had a vision when you first started, but did you see things going the way that they're going?
Yeah, and not from a, when you put a plan together, and when you live in constant, like, how the best way I can say it, when you put a plan together, you put the plan and then you work backwards, right? You say, here's my plan. This is where I want to be at this time. And then you just compartmentalize it. And then you start from, but you got your plan. You're working backwards from that plan. When I think about the journey right now, this is only 20%, right? When I think about my family is still working. They're 50, 60 years of age, and they're still working. So ultimately for me, I still feel like I'm going to be working at that time. I just said, where am I going to be at 60? And where I'm going to be, or where I want to be at 60, I'm working backwards from there. And I'm trying to make the biggest impact that I possibly can, because I may still be working at 60. Who knows? I may be able to get my company acquired, and I may be traveling. But that's not my end game. My end game is to know that based off of my geographic location, I still have individuals that are working every single day hard. And who am I to think that I'm going to be any different from them? So my end goal is saying, what do I want to do at 60? I want to own an esports team. I want to own an esports company. I want to impact 20,000 individuals in this space of esports, so therefore they can fulfill their dreams just as much. And I want to be able to say, hey, look what I did, and here's how you can do it better, faster, and more efficient. And ultimately, when I say I know that this is where it is, I know this is where it is. I remember being in college, and my teacher said, hey, do a business plan, build out a do a business plan on anything. I say, I want an esports arena. I literally went to SketchUp. I designed the esports arena, put some chairs, put a bar inside of it. I had the gaming setups. I built the little gaming setups, and I presented that in my college course as my project as building a business plan in a scope of work. And when I look at that in 2009, that time, I'm seeing it right now. I'm in a 15,000 square foot esports arena with a bar, with an arena, with I visioned it. And so ultimately I know, and this is nowhere near where it's going to go. And I'm just going through the motions of being able to say, I'm sticking to my plan, and I know where my plan, unless I pass away, I know where my plan is. And I'm only 20% there.
Good. I mean, I can relate. It's nothing like having a dream, and even sometimes you're the only one who sees it,
Yeah.
and being able to put that work in behind it, and then see it start to come to reality. I mean, even if you're saying you're only 20% there, it's a strong 20, and I can't wait to see what you do when you get to the other 80.
Vice versa.
What's next? For Esposure?
Yeah, right now, we have this technology platform, and I haven't spoke on it as much, and we're going to be releasing it publicly. But right now we have this learning management system where, like I stated, we broke down marketing, management, technology, competition, and production. Let's say in management, a student learns where they go to YouTube and they're looking at content, and they digest that content because that's how they feel. Nobody's yarning on them saying, you got to get this content in. They're more like appreciative. They're learning, and you learn easier when you love what you're learning. If you see Ninja, playing Fortnite, you're looking at how Ninja is playing Fortnite. So you go play Fortnite, you can be better than Ninja, right? That's how younger individuals are learning right now. So when I look at creating content, I'm looking at creating content from the perspective of experience. So if I'm going to show individuals from a content piece that's aesthetically pleasing how to run an esports facility, then that's one of the biggest ways that a student will be able to learn. They'll know exactly how to engage it, but the content is engaging. Just like this podcast, the content is engaging. So when I think about building out this core curriculum or core content piece, I look at it saying, all right, how can we take this and be able to allow, a university in Nigeria, or a university in Ghana, or a university in an area that looks like the environment that I come from? How can we ensure that we have a team that can actually go out and start to provide our content? So for us, our goal right now is to ensure that our platform is being accepted globally. That's the number one priority right now. We started locally by engaging with our local entities and our local public schools. Now it's almost like we got a proof of concept. We have a foundation. Let's start to secure institutions and colleges nationally. But ultimately, my mind state right now is that while everybody in every institution, high school, college, community college, globally is trying to figure out how to build an esports. And I know by having an IP, a technology platform, we can scale globally and impact even more than 20,000 individuals by 2025. So when I look at it from that perspective, for us, it's actively going out and building communities in these particular entities and in geographic locations. So ultimately, they can actually have their own self-sustaining model, just like what we've created. So when I look back later, we can go to these geographic locations and see the Ivans, see the Dannys, see the Michael Aguilar, see the individuals in these spaces because they've been given resources. Resources is so hard. When you think about esports in the play-to-pay system, if you don't have the resources, you're trying to scrap to get seen. You're trying to scrap to get noticed. If you have the resources, then you're already up there, and it's just about you understanding that you got the resources and capitalizing on the fact that you got the resources. Well, I really want to make sure that individuals who don't have those resources, they get the resources, and it's going to be on us to be able to provide them the resources. So that's what's next for us, is ultimately impacting individuals without resources, so therefore they can have the power to be able to play on the same level field as someone who was given the resources, and upwards of being able to say, nah, it's time to compete now. Esports is about competition, whether it's a business, whether it's esports, whether it's competitive gaming, it is still about competition, and that's the heart of it. And we want to ensure that the individuals who don't have the necessary resources have them so they can compete and ultimately win, but most importantly, they can compete.
Well said as usual, Danny. Before we get out of here, I have a portion of the show where OG wants to know. It's rapid fire questions, just to get to know a little bit about you outside of what you do. Answer open as honestly as possible, if you wish. Biggest influence?
Nelson Mandela.
What motivates you?
My community.
Favorite video game of all time?
Let's say, I say Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas.
Favorite sports team?
This is gonna be weird, but I would say the Browns. And I'll make it quick, but Browns is just, they're underdogs. So every year I look for them to be able to do something that's going to help them be on the forefront of the industry. So I look at them as underdogs.
Gotcha. Favorite athlete?
LeBron. I look at LeBron as a total package when it comes down to, business, never getting in trouble, insight, inspiring, charismatic, charitable, philanthropic, and skillful.
Gotcha. Favorite actor and actress?
Denzel. He's versatile, and when you think about from a actress perspective, I like Gabrielle Union. She's fun and she's engaging, and she looks pretty.
Makes sense. Celebrity crush?
Sanaa Lathan. I just grew up on loving basketball, so I was just like, hey, you know, if I can be able to see her out, that would be that time.
That's a good one. Favorite movie of all time?
I think Radio. Yeah, with Cuba Gooding Jr. That was very inspiring for me, you know.
Favorite esports organization?
Oh man, this is a really good one. I like I would say wow, this is a really good one. It really makes me think about all the ones that are out there. I wish I could give multiple. But I'm
Go ahead. We
okay.
hey.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. So first off, I am inspired by 100 Thieves. One, because it's shown individual that of Nashot saying, I am a professional athlete and I can turn into a business mogul and I can create an empire. And when I think of that, I think of Dayfry, right? When Dayfry, seeing him engage, and then after him winning the actual NBA 2K League season 3 and then becoming MVP, Dayfry calls and said, hey, I want to give back now. And now he has the opportunity to go build his own franchise. He can go do that, whether it's a G League or whether it's a little league, but just seeing that cycle, I just am inspired by. And upwards in the NBA 2K League, I got so many of them because of the players that are representing that I see and I cheer on every day. But when I speak on one of the biggest dynamics right now that's truly inspiring to me is your team, Ivan. And one of the reasons why that is you're that father figure to the individual. So ultimately they're able to listen, and they may not listen all the time, but they see you as someone that's giving and someone that's insightful, and you can leverage the partnerships around you within the league from starting, in before the 2K League. And that's true value. That's true power. And you can see it resonate in the side of the team and the branding around it. And that's one of the biggest elements that I pay attention to. You have history, and you just didn't pop up into this industry. You've actually built this industry, right? So people are you're going to always have people who come into this. They're going to have to listen and learn, and they're going to just learn from your track record. And I think that's one of the powers outside of you. And then, you famous, and, LT, you hone that in to where someone says, man, this is it was from the ground, right? And now it's being built from that. And that's brand equity that cannot be bought, right? You can't buy that. That's just time and energy. And so for me, when I look at the NBA 2K League, if you don't have that part of your team, then it's going to be hard to, be the Jerry Busts like the Lakers. Like at this point, y'all are creating that, and that should sustain for 10 more years, or not even just 10. I can't even put a time on it. It's going to sustain forever as long as the NBA 2K League is here. Sorry, that was so long.
Oh, no. I mean, I'm going to tell people this is the value of being connected with important people. I mean, because I think, Danny, your value to me, and I'm sure to everyone who has the opportunity to come across you, is that you're very detailed, you're specific, even when you don't like something. And I think people don't value that enough.
Yeah.
I think you have to truly be vulnerable to accept people like yourselves into your life, and I'm appreciative of it. Like I said, I've watched you, I've listened to you, and I've definitely learned from you. So I truly appreciate you doing this interview.
No problem, man. I've been waiting for it, and with life and the journey, we all gotta wait. If we got everything when we wanted it to, you, myself, what story would come out of it, right? If we patiently, engage and say, hey, this is the right time, then you have something that can last forever. It's like a great music soundtrack.
I'm definitely creating a jewel from that today, Danny. I like that. Parting words off this question is, what advice would you give to anyone looking to get into esports?
Ooh, man. Learn from the individuals that have paved the way. your Ivans. I always like to talk about Wim Stocks of Collegiate Star League. He just announced, his parting ways. Learn from the individuals who have come before you, and not only just learn, but understand how you can be able to make it even efficient. So think about it from an innovation perspective. Don't do what everyone else is doing. Figure out where everybody else is running away from and saying, why are they running away from it? And come in and fix it. Be the firefighter of the industry. Come in and fix a problem. And if you fix that problem, you're now providing value to the industry. And individuals are going to respect it. They're going to love it. They're going to be engaged with it. And you're ultimately going to inspire the next generation of esports enthusiasts. So therefore, the industry can sustain and keep going. So don't look at it as what you can get out of it. Look at it as how much you can put into it. And as you put into it, ultimately, you'll get something out of it. But if you don't get anything out of it, you'll still be okay with putting things into it. And that's the number one. Pay attention to the journey, because the journey is long. The industry is still new, but identify how you can be innovative in the industry and how you can provide value. That is your number one. Every day you wake up, identify how you can provide value to this industry. And I promise you, you'll be fulfilled.
Hey, I don't think I could have said that any better, Danny. Thank you for doing this episode. I really appreciate it.
Oh man, appreciate you. You created the platform, and that's inspiring in itself.
And I want to also thank everyone who tuned in to listen to this episode, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Just continue to support the show, and make sure you subscribe as well. Follow me on social media at OG King CURT. That's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Follow the podcast on social media as well, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can go to www.ogkingcurt for everything OG King CURT and the podcast. Shout out to my team, Strider Visuals, Cy Evermore, and Box Graphics for continuing to make the show what it is today. You can catch me every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday on EsportsXTRA. That's what hosts Larry Ridley, the crew, Kelly Wells Brinkley, Antonio Williams, and Derwin Worrell, and producer extraordinaire Kevin Mamuzet. That's every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, typically at 7 p.m. on twitch.tv/OG2CENTS. I mean, not OG2CENTS, but twitch.tv/Compete Forever, and on Facebook and YouTube. Make sure you continue to tune in to every week's episode. And remember, if it makes sense, it's an OG2CENTS. OG out.
Put this work in, fellas. And much, much, much love to the entire 2K community for always showing me love. Without y'all, we wouldn't be here. Yeah.